Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of how to create a Git repository and how you would use it in a practical overview so that you can kind of see what this looks like in action. Okay, so here's my overview written in Markdown, which is also one of the things you should know. So by now you should already have seen the basic shell commands that we're going to be using, and you should know what Git is and what version control is. So if you haven't seen those introductory videos, I would suggest doing those first. But if not, maybe you can watch this, do those, and then come back. And obviously I'm using Markdown right here, but we're going to be using Markdown so that we don't really have to worry about the code aspect of it and just how we save it and how we interact with multiple users and multiple people working on a project. One of the things I want to say is that the way we do Git from the command line is can be confusing. It's difficult, I think, for some people to read because just of the way the color scheme of the command line is written. There are visual ways to do version control. GitHub Desktop is a visual interface for that, and Atom also has kind of a somewhat graphical way to approach version control. So if you guys are interested in any of that, I can do a separate video on how to use either or both of those. But for right now, I'm going to do this in the most classic way, and that's from the command prompt. Okay, so like I said, you should already know shell. So what we're going to do is we're going to cd into, why is caps lock on, the projects directory, which I have. And here I'm going to make a directory. And what I'm imagining we're going to make right now is just a way to share all of our notes that we take. So it'd be still a live project that we're interacting with each other, and we can actually use this if you guys want to just play with it to kind of see all of the merge conflicts we can generate and practice resolving those. This is going to be a great way to do that, especially if people are editing it and checking out branches and pushing things and making pull requests and all sorts of things that we'll talk about later. But for right now, we're going to make that. So I'm going to call this front end class notes. Made that directory. Okay, so now I'm going to do ls to check. Oh, wait, we're going to cd into front end class notes. And then we'll ls, and we'll see that there's nothing in here. So what we're going to do first, and this is one of two ways to start a Git project, is we're going to do git init. And it initialized an empty Git repository, so there's still nothing here. But it does now have Git tracking. The dot that's in that actually keeps us from seeing that when we're just listing files, but it's still there. It's just deliberately hidden because it's not the kind of thing you want to interact with. It's kind of managing itself. Okay, so I'm using Atom, so I'm going to say Atom dot to open up this empty file, and we'll open up a second Atom here. Got to get rid of this welcome message. And I'm going to open up a new file. So the first thing you should do, weird. Okay, so the first thing that you should do is make a README. So I'm going to save this right away. I'm going to call it readme.md for Markdown. And we're going to add some files to it. So whenever I'm doing this, I first give it the title, and so this is going to be front end class notes is what we called it. The description will be here. I don't actually want a bullet on that description. And then the two absolute minimum things you should do, you should just have a README on all kinds of things, because when you're going back through your numerous GitHub repositories and things like that, having just a brief description of what your intention was here not only makes your GitHub look more professional, but it also just makes it easier for you to realize which are the projects that you abandoned and which are the ones that have the code that you might be looking for right now. It's just really going to save you time long term, even though we're coding people, we may or may not like writing, but it's pretty easy. So the two major sections that I always add are contributing and contributors. Okay, so contributing is a little misleading because you're going to use it no matter whether or not other people are contributing. It's just like an intention of how this thing is supposed to be. And so here I'm going to write how I think we should write the notes, right? So all files should be written in Markdown. Following, this is not great grammar, but it does not matter. It just needs to get done. GitHub style guide, and I'm going to put square brackets around this as if I linked it, but I'm not going to link it right now, but I might add that later. And then each file should contain the name of the course followed by the number of the lesson. So like if we're doing accessibility, we would do accessibility 1 for lesson 1, something like that. And then let's also say avoid long code snippets where links to code are available. So if link to individual videos where possible. And this is just my general guide on how you should take notes when you're doing a nano degree as well. And you're welcome to have different ideas. And you can submit a pull request on this when we talk about that in another video. And then contributors, I just list the people who are adding things right now. It's nice to have your name on things. It's good to kind of keep up a professional idea. And it's important to always be citing your sources all the time, constantly. Okay, so now we're going to save this file. It's saved. But now we're trying to save it in our Git repository and add it to our log. Okay, so now I'm going to, the first command I'm going to use, and you can actually see it down here in my little GitHub Git cheat sheet that I pulled up because it's just great to have. I will link that in the description for this video, and I'll probably put it in some class notes somewhere else if anybody needs to see that, but always have a cheat sheet. And first thing we're going to do is git status. I always do git status for every commit all the time. It's important to know what you're doing and seeing the state of things. So here I see that I have no commits. We haven't done one yet. And we have one untracked file, which is the README. And it's in red because it's untracked. So if I want to add it to the stage, which means things that are about to be committed, you can kind of put things on them and take them off so that you really know what you want. Sometimes you want to do some of the files in this commit and some of the files in another commit just to make it clear. So we're going to do git add, and then I use my autocomplete to get README. And then if I do git status again, I can see that it is now green and it's about to be added. If I want to take everything off the stage, that's git reset. Look at that. It's back to red. There's nothing there. And then this one is really easy to abuse, but really, really commonly used, which is I want to add everything that would be read in here. I know right now, because I just did git status, that that's just readme.md, and as long as you type git status first, it's fine to use this, but you should never just git add.blind without checking what other files, because sometimes you've got like files that you're not meant to push. They're just local files on your computer for your environment or things like that, and you don't want to push them, so just make sure you know what you're adding and that it makes sense to you. So now I git add dot, and if I look at this, it's the same. I've got README added. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a little bit slightly different from the way we've been doing it in the videos, if you've gotten as far as the commit messages, which is I'm going to do the messages in line. So that -m lets me do my git commit message at the same time that I commit this, and that works for me. You can also just type git commit, press enter, and a text editor will pop up. You just have to remember to, I think, Control Q or Q to quit out of it. I never use it. Okay, so there are a couple of schools on what like case the verb should be in when you do this, but the most common one is like a command. So imagine if someone were going to press a button, and that button would do the changes that you just made. What would you put on that button? So in this case, we added a README. So if I'm going to press a button, that button's going to say add README. So I'm going to type add README. This is the first commit, so I could maybe have done an initial commit, especially since it's just a README, but I like specificity. So here we go. Do that, and it's committed. Done. So if I type git status, it says working directory is clean. It makes no mention of README. If I list the files, you'll see README still there, but it's not showing up here because no changes have been done to it. And Git is about tracking changes. Okay, so going back to our outline, Yeah, we already talked about the README and commits. So now we're going to talk about, yeah, I'm going to forget the remote part of this. We're just going to talk about the local parts, and we can talk about adding a remote later. But in general, you see, I did all of this. If I type git branch, right, and we've talked, you maybe seen a little bit about branches, but we haven't talked about them. I'm on the master branch. This is the main branch. Generally, I don't want to be just changing things on the master branch because I can't go back besides going like directly back in time or directly forward in time in that. And this is going to get a little bit more chaotic than that because collaboration is amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to check out a new branch. So what I can do is I can do git branch and the name, I believe, right? And my convention with writing git branches that I learned, this is also a little bit arbitrary, and call it whatever you want, is you type your initials and then the feature. So let's say I'm going to add accessibility notes. Let's just hyphenate. SL for Slinkus, accessibility notes. We go there, and now if I type git branch, I have two branches. You can see master there has the star, and in git bash here it's green. It might not necessarily be, but it will have the star because that's the one we're on. So now we want to move to that branch. So we're going to say git checkout SL, and I just auto-completed accessibility notes. So now if I type git branch, again, which I could have up arrowed, you can see that the star is on SL accessibility notes. You can do this all in one step, but this is good to kind of keep it sorted out. So you can say git checkout -b for a new branch, and then sorry. So checkout -b, and I could say like SL responsive design notes. Maybe notes is not necessary given the intention of this repo. Okay, so now I get branch, and I've got all of them, and I should see that I am already on design notes. So that moved me there, and it created it all in one step, which is nice. But I want to go back to accessibility notes. Actually, I don't need to. Okay. And so then here I might add a feature. So if I go into Atom, I'm now in this branch here. That's where we're going to be saving into. So I will actually, we're going to do here, we're going to make a directory. So we can put all the accessibility notes, right? Make directory, accessibility notes. And then Atom. See if I've got the wrong directory up. Okay, so now I've got this accessibility notes folder, and here I'm going to do a new file, and this one is going to be called accessibility. Good Lord, the word accessibility is brutal. Okay. Ability 1 according to our style guide, which may have been a mistake, but we're going to stick to convention. And now we're in Markdown, and I'll say accessibility. And then we'll probably have a section called Overview, and when I take the notes, I'm going to add the sections and things. But taking notes in Markdown is extremely useful because it will make your Markdown very fluid in the future. You don't have to worry about weird formatting things that a lot of text editors helpfully think they're doing for you, and things like that. And let's say I just finished this feature, so I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to git status over here. It's going to say accessibilities and things. So I'm going to git add, and I can git add dot because I know what it is. I can git commit add notes for first lesson of accessibility. And then I'm going to git checkout master and git merge SL. Oh, I put this in the wrong one. I put it in responsive design. Okay, whatever. That'd be something you would want to fix, but we're just trying to responsive design notes. Okay, so now if I get, oh gosh, what is it? Get status, everything should be clean. And what I want to see is the history. What is that? Git log. Thank you. Helpful things. So the only thing that's happened is we've got the most recent commit on top.